privilege of being introduced by Sandra when I showed up at the home, and she said, "These are members of my church, and this is my pastor. I love these people." And I felt very welcome. You are welcome too, because Sandra loved you as well. So we are glad that you are here today to celebrate a life well lived. Let us pray. Dear God, we give you thanks for the life of Sandra Taylor. It touched us and inspired us. She didn't have to tell us that she was a Christian. We could see that she was a Christian when she was helping refugee families, and for that she was a blessing, and we are blessed. She didn't have to tell me she was a Christian when she worked in the garden to send the best produce down to the food pantry. She fed many families down there through her hard work and hot days here in the church garden. And because of that, many people were blessed, and she was a blessing. She was a person that never stopped teaching. She taught professionally, she taught in Sunday school, she taught in her very living. May we continue that teaching by our very living, giving the best to others and showing them what God has taught in our lives can work in their lives too. For that she was a blessing, and we were blessed. Every person here has a story that can be shared about Sandra. And we know you can write those memories on your heart and think about her as things like going by a school reminds you, going by a garden reminds you, seeing her family, you are reminded to be a bit like Sandra and her loving husband, Steve. Thank you for bringing us together on such a great subject as the life of Sandra Taylor. Amen.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Holly Hall, for those that don't know me, and I've had the privilege of helping Sonnie this past year. Seth and Wendy approached me a year ago asking me to spend time with Sonnie. I'm going to get it together. I didn't realize at the time the gift they were giving me, and I can't thank them enough. I would go to Sonnie's house and help her with simple chores like laundry, grocery shopping, meals. But it became more than that. I gained a very special friend. Every time I walked into the house, it became our world. She always greeted me with a smile and a hug, sometimes two. And we would walk and laugh and listen to the radio. We would listen to music, hymns, and on Fridays, the OSU marching band. I'd get her pumped up for the game. We would share stories about our families. I learned about the wild side of Stephen, as she affectionately called him. Their motorcycle trips, their steak dinners, and their trips into the woods. I'd share about my family and about what my kids have been up to. She would share with me Lily and Luke's accomplishments. She was so proud of you, Lily and Luke. It showed on her refrigerator, on her blankets, and it showed on her face. Every time she talked about you, it lit up. We did all this while sitting around the kitchen table doing her favorite activity, puzzles. And I'm going to take a break because if I finish this, I will cry, so I'm going to read a puzzle. I'm not going to read a puzzle. I'm going to read a poem about puzzles. And before I do that, I'm going to cite my source because she is an English teacher, and I'm going to disappoint. even though the source is Weary Dreamer, and I don't know who he is. This is called the puzzle of life. You have a puzzle piece, and so do I. We carry it with us until we die. Each piece has a place in God's overall plan of what happens to us, woman and man. All the people we meet and the places we go give shape to the picture that we have to show. So we mingle together and search for a piece to see if it matches and fits with ease. Sometimes we think that a piece really goes, only to find that it just gives us woes. And we hold on to it for quite a while, till we're forced to trade it for another style. If we pick up a piece and it won't seem to fit, it may be just perfect after waiting a bit. Then there's the ones we don't even touch, because we believe they're not worth very much. Sometimes we're surprised by what we ignore, when we discover it's what we've looked for. Thus we go through life and we pick and we choose the different pieces we want to use. At times we seem lost at what choices to make, and amaze ourselves at the chances we take. We don't have the picture on the box top lid to show future results of things that we did. And if we ask questions of God's grand design, am I in your puzzle, or are you in mine? We learn all these pieces will merge into one, completing the puzzle when life here is done. To us, Sonnie and I, it was never about getting them finished quickly. It was about our time around the table, our time. We would swap stories, swap pieces, celebrate finally fitting a piece in. I hate turning the page because I'm hungry. And when we finally completed the puzzle, we would high-five each other and stand up and admire the finished picture. Sonnie, though I can't give you a final high-five, I stand here today and admire the beautiful finished picture. I thank you, I miss you, and I love you, Sonnie. Sorry. Thank you to Cheryl, Seth, and Wendy for sharing your beautiful mom with me. Oh, okay, well. And so we can share her with you. After the service, we invite you to take one of Sonnie's puzzles from the table. Sit around your table, share your stories, and do a puzzle in her honor. Thank you.
Just haven't even started yet. Thank you all for coming. I'm sure my mom would be humbled and honored to know that somebody came in her honor. And I'm very grateful you all taking your time to do so. Excuse me. Before I talk about Mom, there are several people that I'd like to thank. Thank you to all Mom's friends here at St. Andrew Christian Church. Years ago, Mom and Dad were charter members, and I know both very much valued their church life and the community of love, friendship, and fellowship that they had here. A special thank you to my mom's dear friends, John and Charlotte Allred. I can't thank them enough for all the care and love they have shown my mom from the time when they met Dad and Mom, and he was still alive, to after he passed, and all the way through to visiting Mom near the end. Thank you, John and Charlotte. I'm also very appreciative to all the folks from hospice who helped us take care of Mom. Their kindness to my mother made a difficult time a good bit easier. Another thanks to my mother-in-law, Sherry Brock. Her help, whether directly with Mom, helping me or Wendy, or always delicious cooking, was more than I could ask for. I love you, Sherry. Of course, to my sister Cheryl as well. I'm glad I have you to share my sadness, but, excuse me, I'm so much more glad that we got to share such a great and amazing mom together. A special shout out to my children, Luke and Lily. Luke, who had to live through a difficult and sad situation, and Lily, who had to go through it all without getting to be with her family. Grandma loved you both so much, and was unapologetically proud of both of her. You are her legacy. I love that I see her living on in both of you, and I'm so glad I get to be your dad. And then there's the Halls. Much love, thanks to Todd and Brody for making me laugh, their help whenever we needed it, and for bringing me chicken wings and their weird-ass toys. To Paige for being so sweet to my mother, and for the time she spent talking and puzzling with her. And to Holly. To Holly, who literally exhausted herself when we needed her most. To Holly, who did so much more than just take care of Mom. To Holly, who brought Mom her favorite treats. To Holly, who puzzled, and quite frankly, poorly with my mom. To Holly, who made Mom laugh. To Holly, who quite simply, unconditionally loved my mom. To Holly, who gave my mom the gift of finding a new best friend. For all this and so much more, I thank you, Holly. I love you. Please, everyone. And finally, to my amazing wife, Wendy. I already had a very long list of reasons why I think Wendy is the most amazing, kind, loving, and powerful woman I've ever known before we decided to have Mom move in with us. But through this whole difficult, sad, and stressful time, Wendy has been a pillar of strength for me and a truly kind and loving caregiver for my mom, all while still giving her usual great care of our children and still somehow juggling her already full working life schedule. I will forever be grateful for all the sacrifices she made and all the difficult things she spared me from and chose to do for my mom and the dignity she allowed her all the way to the end. I cannot express my gratitude and love to you. You took the best care of my mom and gave her grace, love, and dignity. Thank you will never be enough, but thank you. Now I get to talk about my mom. Sandra the most. Sonnie the son, Mrs. Taylor to her students, and as I recently learned, Sandy to my father when he was courting her. She was always just Mom to Cheryl and me. Mom, such a simple word to describe such a complicated, interesting, smart, loving, and strong-willed woman. Mom was a teacher in and out of the classroom. She was the kind of teacher her students hated at the beginning of the year and was their favorite by the end. She was challenging, but always kind and always fair. I think her students all knew she genuinely cared about them and their learning. Mom started as an English teacher and then stepped away to raise my sister and me. Excuse me. Once we were older, Mom went back to teaching. However, the only position available at our local school was physics and physical science. Mom was very smart and could teach whatever she knew, but she didn't know science. However, my dad did. He knew it cold. However, Dad was not the teacher Mom was. Actually, Dad was a good teacher. His problem was what he assumed was common knowledge was most definitely not. And he would usually start somewhere around step 6. So that first year, Dad would literally teach my mom the night before, but she was teaching her students the next day. I can tell you there were many intense conversations around the dining room table that year. I always wondered what her students would have thought if they only knew. Education and learning were very important to Mom, and she required both of her children, whether we wanted it or not. Her standards for my sister and I were much higher than they were for her students. For example, in high school, I brought home a straight A grade. However, I had a 90, which was a B on my English file. My mom's only response when looking at my grade card was, and I quote, "You got a B on your English file." I was very surprised to learn that some kids got money for bringing home good grades, as this was never an option for me. In fairness to Mom, I did realize that she knew there was no reason for me not to get the A, and if I didn't, it was only because I was not putting in the effort I should. I did learn this lesson, and it has served me well. So thanks, Mom, for teaching me this, along with so many other things. Mom was a very strong-willed woman. I'm guessing this is stating the obvious to all of you who knew her. Mom never once said to me, "Wait until your father gets home." She dealt with my crap right then and there. And I apologize to Mom, but I have to tell the story. For example, beets. I was probably 7 or 8 when we had beets for dinner. I hate beets. Somehow, I thought putting them in my mouth and then going to the bathroom would fool her. It did not. She followed me straight in, got the beets out of the toilet, rinsed them off, put them right back on my plate. Honestly, I think this should explain to all of you why I am the way I am. Previous example aside, I think what set Mom apart to me was the way she handled difficult situations and things that bothered her with such grace and kindness. She did not raise her voice in anger. She did not ever say insulting things, but still found a way to communicate her displeasure. I don't remember why, but Mom wrote a letter to either someone in our government or maybe school board. And while I'm hazy on the specifics, I know that letter included the phrase, "the white dove of peace," and also mentioned sacred cows. Mom had an amazing vocabulary and knew how to use it. One of the last things Mom said to me, and I say this with love, she said, "Seth, you are driving me crazy." And I'm sure that I was. It is impossible for me to think about Mom without thinking of Camp Christian. As some of you may know, she and my dad met there. How wonderful it was that they could share their great love with each other there, not to mention getting to raise their family there. Certainly what Dad did at camp was remarkable and should be celebrated, but Mom was the unsung hero. She had no title. She was rarely paid and even more rarely recognized. And she gave no less of her time and energy and love to camp than Dad did. She was the one who washed all the sheets every week of summer camp. She was the one who gave up living in a neighborhood with friends and grocery stores that were less than 20 minutes away. She was the one who did everything behind the scenes so Dad could do what he did. And she did it all with great love and unending patience for the summer staff, the camp directors, and the campers themselves. What a gift she gave camp, and all those whose experience there was enriched by her, whether they knew it or not. Of all my memories and experiences with my parents at camp, one stands out. Nearly every meal, every day, all summer long, and for almost 20 years, when Dad drove Mom to the dining hall in the truck, she would sit next to him. Not by the window, but on the bench, right next to him, so they could be near each other. I can't think of a better way to describe their love for each other and the great love that surrounds camp. Amen to that. Growing up, it always seemed to me that Mom was always in control, always on top of things, never late, and free of any doubts or anxiety. I, of course, learned over time this was no more true for her than the rest of us. But she always lived with such grace and kindness despite it. It's a lesson that I am still trying to learn. But I'm forever grateful for this and so many more examples Mom gave us gave me is how to live my life. I miss you, Mom, but I'm so happy that you are forever sitting next to Dad. All right. I was all pleased with the thought and emotion I put into what I wrote. Apologize. And then my sister found love letters that my dad wrote to my mom. And I think that anything I just said pales in comparison, and I'm going to read you a couple of examples. This is July 23rd, Lily's birthday, but in 1958. Hi, I love you. Today is a special day. I didn't get a letter from you, and my orders still aren't in, but today is a special day. 1 month from today, we'll be married. 1 month to be a bachelor. I'm sick of being a bachelor. I want to marry you. 1 month to call you Miss. I'm sick of calling you Miss. I want to marry you. 1 month of the awfulest loneliness there ever was. I'm sick of being lonely. I want to marry you. I want to marry you. I want to marry you. They're painting things around here, and there's a paint odor. The air is fresh, and it has a smell. Cooking smells come out of the mess hall. They all get together in the right proportion now and again, and there's a smell in the air, just like Camp Christian. Can you remember? I get all sorts of memories when I think about camp. Clean memories. Did you know it won't have been a year from the last camp until we're married? Why did it take us so long? I can remember the first night there that I caught you before you went off to bed. We were real serious, weren't we? Then, the night we sat by the fire in the gym. I wanted so much to kiss you, but I didn't know if I should. Oh, my darling, I love you, truly. I'm realizing more every day how little I lived until you came along, and how very little I'd ever live again without you. 1 month and we'll be Mr. and Mrs. God bless us both in this, and I hope he hurries time up. I'm terribly in love with you, Miss Hoffman. Will you marry me a month from now? Steve. All right, one more. I'm going to read this twice, because Wendy told me to. And I think after you hear it, you'll know why. This was written by my dad when he was 25 on a Wednesday night, sometime in 1958. Messing around with mathematics for the last quarter of my life like I have, I've bumped into an interesting little thing. It is that all the dynamics, moving phenomena we know of on this world, all depends in one way or another on the variable time. That is to say, everything which experiences a change, or moves at all, waits on time to come along, and bring with it an outcome, a result, what have you. Given time, the most complex and apparently incompatible factors in a problem finally line up, and at last yield answers. Not always those to be desired or expected, but answers nonetheless. Now, people who obviously move, sometimes in all directions at once, must, whether they like it or not, reckon with this time. And here's an observation. Knowing the capabilities of this time, might not one find considerable comfort in realizing that answers, if such he seeks, if not currently available, will be someday, because somebody up there gave us all the time we'll ever need to fill a lifetime. I'm going to read it again. We also printed out about 20 copies in the back if you would like to read through this again, because I hope that it gives you some hope about your lives the way it has mine. Messing around with mathematics for the last quarter of my life like I have, I bumped into an interesting little thing. It is that all the dynamics, moving phenomena we know of in this world, all depends in one way or another on the variable time. That is to say, everything which experiences a change, or moves at all, waits on time to come along and bring with it an outcome or result, what have you. Given time, the most complex and apparently incompatible factors in a problem finally line up and at last yield answers. Not always those to be desired or expected, but answers nonetheless. Now, people who obviously move, sometimes in all directions at once, must, whether they like it or not, reckon with this time. And here's an observation. Knowing the capabilities of this time, might not one find considerable comfort in realizing that answers, if such he seeks, if not currently available, will be someday, because somebody up there gave us all the time we'll ever need to fill a lifetime. Okay. Next is what we're calling the passing of the chocolates. My mom loved chocolate and loved to give it away. So with the help of my kids and the help of the halls, we're going to do just that.
And if you know the song, please sing along.
Please.
Yeah, please sing along.
I sing about as good as I speak.
read some of the memories you guys have written down about Mom. Every time I saw Sonnie, I said hello and gave her a hug. She always responded with a tight squeeze and an I love good hug, or you give great hugs. Some of my memories of Sonnie are in the garden or in the St. Andrew kitchen, washing the freshly picked produce. The sheer delight on her face as she filled Easter eggs or helped during Sunday school. Her bright smile and kindness holds a dear place in my heart. She will be missed, but Sonnie will always be with us. Much love, Jojo Johnson.
Sonnie, Steve, Seth, Cheryl, Camp Christian, Luke, Lily, Legos, STEM, North Union High School. We'll decide where, who's where. I'm sorry, I can't read cursive. Should be so when, where, how, and what.
Yes, you got it.
Yes. Yeah.
I will miss seeing Sandra walking every morning, up and down the street, stopping to chat with her. She will be missed.
Judy and I always enjoyed running into Sandra on our walks with the dogs on Grandy Cliffs. She always had a smile and greeting for us and treats for the dogs. She was such a special person with affection shared.
My precious sister Sonnie. God bless me when he gave me sis, my first friend, best friend, dearest ever. She set the perfect example for me growing up of how a true disciple of God should be. I know she was met with open arms as she entered the gates. I miss her so already, but am comforted that she is in his loving care forever.
Sonnie loved to help me in the St. Andrew Christian Church Garden. She loved the fact that we donated 2,000 pounds of fresh produce to the food bank. She always had a smile on her face. Okay.
Sonnie was such a role model for me. She showed me what an intelligent, honest, and spiritual woman looked like. I learned about parenting from her. When I asked her what the hardest part of parenting was, she replied, all of it. She made me feel normal.
Back in the early years of St. Andrew, we had a weekly prayer group. Sonnie, an integral part of the group, made up of women at various life stages. Retired grandmother, working more with teenagers, somewhere in the group, and a new mother. I was in the group. Sonnie had encouraging words always and ensured us that we would make it through our own. Childhood and even eventually those teenage times, I'm trying to be the reassuring present Sonnie was to the next generation.
Oh boy. For the last several years, I've had the pleasure of driving Sonnie to and from knitting on Tuesdays and occasionally on Wednesday mornings to work in the church garden. She never failed to tell me how much she appreciated my driving her. She loved to listen to the conversation at knitting and catch up on activities at church. She was always excited when when her sister visited her, and she would join us at knitting. Sonnie always wanted to leave knitting at 4:30 so that she would be home to take her medicine that was prescribed to be taken every 12 hours. I was always impressed by her jump roping abilities and how strong she was. She was able to carry heavy baskets of vegetables from the garden into the church kitchen. She was always enthusiastic about helping out in any capacity that she could. I miss her already. Linda Lee.
Sonnie's smile, we'll miss her. I taught with Sandra at North Union. We ate lunch together every day. Kelly Williams.
We shared a lot of years being next door to each other with our classrooms at North Union.
I remember when the choir would sing an exceptionally good song, Sonnie would come back to the choir room and compliment the choir members. I recall how happy she and Steve were when they became grandparents. She remarked, "We begin a happy new chapter in our lives."
I have countless fond memories of Sonnie, but I always knew that if you needed prayer, Sonnie would be jumping rope and lifting up whoever or whatever you requested. She was a blessing to many. Sonnie was my friend. I miss her. I miss her at knitting at church on Tuesday. I apologize. I think I got it.
And then my story, so when I was really little, my grandma was still working for the school. I was probably like 5 or 6, like really tiny. She would have me help like put stickers on good papers and good A's, all that awesome stuff. And years later, probably 12 years later, I was at school and one of my own teachers had her as his teacher. And he was pretty young, so I ended up putting a sticker on one of my own teacher's papers.
That is all that we have. I thank you again all for coming. We just have one more thing to do to play Mom out the way she would like to be played. Sorry. Oh, yes, and we have a chocolate bar, so there's a variety of chocolates. Fountain chocolate cake, chocolate. So thank you all for coming, and God bless you all.
get the trombone.
And a puzzle.
And a puzzle.